feel like my gap is more firm / less deep when I'm engaged standing as opposed to engaging lying down. Now this one is an awesome question because it kind of comes up a lot and it's really true. So when you lie down, the floor is supporting your whole body. Okay, so if you think about it, when you lie down, your back doesn't have to work, your core doesn't have to work, your head's not being held up, everything is supported by the floor. So none of your muscles need to fire. Okay, so you're lying there. That's why you lie down when you meditate, and it's easiest to work on your TVAs when you're lying down because nothing else has to work. You can isolate the muscles. But what that also means is it's going to be when your gap is the widest and the deepest. Okay, so remember when your gap, the rectus abdominis, so these front six-pack muscles, is what reduces the gap. And the deep core, so your TVAs and your internal obliques, is what creates the tension in the linea alba, so that connective tissue down the middle. So when you're lying down and your muscles don't need to fire at all, your rectus abdominis is going to be slightly, well, it's going to be relaxed, right? So it's going to be wider. And that's why when we measure, we lift our head slightly, because that motion of lifting your head triggers your core muscles to activate. Now, how much they activate depends on A, how high you lift your head, and B, how strong they are. Okay, and then you get the doming if your deep core doesn't automatically activate with it, and that's why we end up with that doming in the middle. So when you are lying down and you're engaging, you're forcing, so you're activating your TVAs, which is as you engage, the rest of your core muscles will start firing, but not to the degree of doing a crunch or something that is more rectus dominant. They're firing to support the movement. Okay, so your gap will probably be a little bit deeper when you're lying down, especially if your head's down and you're just activating your TVAs. Now, bad thing, good thing, it's not really an issue because your muscles, your core doesn't have to do anything when you're lying down. So a gap when you're lying down isn't really an issue because it's not supporting, your core's not supporting anything. Now, as you get stronger, your muscles will have more tension in them in a relaxed state. So think about a bicep, okay? So even in a relaxed state, somebody who has strong bicep muscles, you will see a definition of a bicep muscle, okay? So even if their arm is hanging at their side and they're chilling out and they are relaxed, you will still see that muscle. Now, as you get stronger with your core, the same thing happens with all those supporting muscles. They get stronger, which is what actually reduces the gap in the relaxed state, okay? Now, that takes time, so don't fret if that's not happening yet, but that is why you can reduce the gap whilst you're relaxed. Now, when we measure, we lift our head to fire the rectus so that we can find the edges, okay? Because they have to bulge, and I say bulge, but it's more tighten and get that tension for you to be able to feel where those edges are. It's like you lifting your arm to feel your bicep muscle, okay? So that's why we lift our head, just get some of that tension, and it's more accurate way of measuring because you need your core for when you're standing, not for when you're lying on the ground completely supported by the floor. So when you're standing, your rectus abdominis, your paraspinals, all your body has to work. So it's already in that slightly tensed state because you're standing upright. If they were not working, you would be flat on the ground because you would have flopped out. So that's why we measure it with our head up, because it's a more natural state for when you need your core. But when your head is down, it's going to be the widest and the deepest because nothing is activated. Then as you engage your TVAs, your muscles will start activating and you will feel that tension come in and you should feel the depth reduce. And then when you're standing up, it's already slightly activated. So then when you engage, which you have to engage harder when you're standing because you're working against gravity. Gravity's pulling everything down. So you engage and you pull everything up. So you actually have to engage slightly harder when you're standing than you do when you're lying down to get the same results. But it may, because you're engaging harder, you may find that it feels firmer, but that's more because everything's working in combination. Okay, so I hope that helped. That was a great question.